We're on, dude. Here we go. Oh, you good?
Is there a way to adjust the volume?
Yeah, of course. Lower?
Yeah.
How do you like that?
That's good.
That's good?
Yeah.
All right. Well, dude, thank you for coming, man. Such a short notice.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And you replied right away, dude. And I got Evan even recommended you. As I was replying to you, he had messaged back and was like, try Luke Walls.
Evan Warner?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's so funny. Like, he's one person that I can't wait to battle in roast battle. But
Dude,
I have to lose first. But yeah, he'll beat me. But he's incredible.
He's awesome.
Yeah.
Very, very just witty and on top of it all the time.
Yeah.
So you like doing roast battles?
I love it.
Yeah?
It's a lot of work, but I don't know. It's been good. It's a good writing exercise because it makes you like write in a very structured way and like very concise. And it's also just so much fun. My favorite part is after the roast when the judges shit on you.
Yeah.
That part's always so great.
Give me a second. Let me let this cat out.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I saw you at go ahead, buddy. I saw you. Which roast? Oh, it was the Comic Wars with CJ.
Oh yeah. That was a fun one.
Yeah, I saw that one. You guys had set it the right tone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For everybody else.
Well, that one it was funny because so they had that English woman. Who clearly did not understand what roasts are. She's like, why are you guys talking about race stuff? And it's like, because that's what this is. And then they had, what's his name? Ellis.
Jason Ellis.
Jason Ellis, who, for all his skateboarding and MMA, is a real pussy. And just said anything to not upset this black woman. And it was so funny. But like, I remember the next morning, Nate Welch sends in the group chat to me and CJ. He's like, thanks for starting us off right. Good racism. Which is funny because it was two white dudes and all the jokes were just about how the other one was racist.
Yeah. That was fun. That was my first like kind of roast battle I saw in person. So that was fun to see, dude. I thought you guys did great, to be honest with you.
Yeah, no, it was a fun battle. Comic Wars is so different from roast battle just because you have to write so many more jokes.
Oh, really?
That it's
that makes sense.
Yeah, because like 2 1-minute rounds, and then especially if you're not like if you're not doing like Jam in the Van or you're not the main event, roast battle's only 3 jokes.
Damn.
Which after you do Comic Wars, you're like, oh, that's easy.
Comic Wars is easier, you think, than the
no
roast
Comic
battle?
Wars is harder.
Harder. Okay. Yeah. That makes sense because just more material.
Yeah, the only thing with roast battle is trying to win it, like narrow it down to 3 jokes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the process like with that? You just go to open mics and just run it?
Yep.
You just preface it and be like, hey, I got a roast battle, and then
so I have like
because I saw Forrest do that. Forrest Wheeler.
Yeah. I have like a 2-week system where 2 weeks out, I spend the whole week writing jokes, and I'll just like every day for like 30 minutes to an hour either take a bath or go for a walk somewhere nice. And that's where I write my jokes. And then the week before, baths are a great place to write jokes in.
You're like Trumbo, like the comedic Trumbo.
Yeah. I would just wish I smoked so I could like really complete the picture. But yeah, and then the week before, I just run them at mics. So the week before sucks because it never really goes well in the room. But you just got to get a sense of like what people like and like what works.
Okay, that makes sense though, and it is grueling. I bet for like 2 weeks straight just doing that shit, dude. You must have a certain kind of like cynicism to you, right? To like kind of doing these roast battles. I've noticed that with a lot of people who do the roast battles.
Not really.
No?
Honestly, it's weirdly like the most amicable environment I've been in comedy.
What?
Like the whole roast battle community is great and everyone's nice.
Right.
And like, I don't know, I feel like I've really been like accepted, and then like the judges are nice to me like when I pass by them at the store, and
That's awesome. That's actually a good way to kind of get your face
because you
out
don't
there.
mean anything you say.
That's true, yeah. That is true.
Like, and I roast like everyone with one exception. Everyone I've roasted, I'm like better friends with afterwards.
That's actually interesting. I feel like when you go through something like that, right? Like I equate it to film because I've never done a roast battle, but film, like you go through the trenches, they say.
Yeah.
And then you come out having a stronger relationship, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So that's interesting that happens, actually. That's something I never...
I mean, you just spend 30 minutes to an hour every day just thinking about somebody.
That's so true.
That's
so true. And how's that process then? Like, let's say someone you don't know. How do you get info on that person?
So I'd say the person I'm roasting on this Tuesday, Guam Felix, I probably know the least of like anyone I've roasted. And we actually met up at Starbucks and we just like gave each other a list of things.
No kidding.
And like anyone I'm roasting, like we gave each other like a list of things about ourselves that we make fun of.
No kidding, dude.
And I just try to give like as much info as I can, like as much embarrassing stuff about myself as I can give them. And then me and Guam just like discussed it and we like asked backup questions and.
Bro, that is so cool. Actually, that makes sense now. Why you guys come out closer because you have to spend that time getting to know someone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then fucking doing the fucking battling shit.
Yeah, and I just have this notes thing in my phone that's just this list of bad things about me. I'm like, what if like an employer saw this?
That's hilarious.
But yeah, I mean, that's the other thing about Roast Battle is it's Paige, I always forget her last name, but she's like one of the big people at Roast Battle, like helps plan it. In the LA Times article about it, she's like, roast battling is like radical self-acceptance because you basically have to just accept like I'm okay with all these glaring issues with who I am as a person.
I think that's the one great thing about stand-up though is that you have to do that.
Yeah.
Right? And even just to be funny, like you have to. Like there's no other way around that. You have to fucking dig deep and find those traumatic events almost and tell a story about it.
Yeah, you have to also like put on just like a humility that you don't need in other aspects of life to just be okay with people making fun of it. And actually, at Fourth Wall a couple days ago, I really admired this about you, and me and another comic group talking about it later. Is like everyone's like taking shots at you like during their sets.
Yeah.
And then you take it so well, and like that kind of makes people be like, all right, he's cool.
Well, yeah. Well, I appreciate that by the way, but I think what that is just my whole life I've always kind of been made fun of, and like most of the time in subtle ways too. You know what I mean? And I just let it roll off the tongue, and I feel like that's something that I don't know if. It's just something that I've done. Maybe it's being Asian. You know what I mean? I don't know. But it's one of those things that I've always played into. And it's always been like, I don't want to say a tactic, but like something that I know that my first couple months are going to be rough. And it's just roasting with the homies. You know what I mean? Like that's what it is. Like me and the homies, we would just fucking get stoned in a garage and just roast each other for like 8 hours a day. You know what I mean?
It is funny because like when you like spend a whole mic of that happening, afterwards, everyone thinks more of you. But if in one instance, and I mean, you see this all the time on mics, one guy is like, nope, you don't say that about me.
Yeah, dude.
Everyone's like, this guy sucks.
Yeah. And it doesn't help if they do suck.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if they suck at comedy and they're doing that, that's like a no. I've realized.
Anytime you see someone come from like SoundCloud rapping to try comedy afterwards, that person is never received well because, I mean, for one thing, it's usually a white guy talking like a black guy, so people, you got to make fun of it.
Yeah.
And because I mean, in rap music, you can be sensitive and have your feelings hurt.
Right.
But in comedy, you have to at least pretend to have a thicker skin.
Yeah. And I think I do have a pretty thick skin. I was bullied a lot, dude.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, dude, right? I saw that, actually, the Instagram reel. I forget what podcast it was, but it was a Filipino dude. And he talked about getting bullied, getting called gay.
Oh, yeah. All this is one.
Yeah, dude.
That's the thing. I was noticing that. I was thinking about this morning. Is you and all this just two Filipino dudes with pretty well like made podcasts and like good clips. Somehow something translates from the skills of being a nurse to being a podcast producer.
That is funny. I think what it is, dude, is just we like to talk. You know what I mean? Because as a nurse and stuff like that, and Filipinos in general are just very personal, very welcoming. You know what I mean? And I actually was born in Hawaii. So
really?
And then I lived there for 7 years and then moved to Vegas, which both cities are very hospitality driven. You know what I mean? So, and it's just my mom too. We've just been so comfortable and just going out there and making people feel comfortable. And I also had a job at YouTube, so this kind of stuff had helped me.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, but overall, I think just spending my whole life with older folks because my mom, like she's in the healthcare business and stuff like that, and just since I was 7, I would just talk to the elderly folks, and this is what it would be my whole life. You know what I mean? And it just kind of translated as I'm shifting in towards something where conversation and talking is the main point of the art within podcast and stand up. You know, I just have the skills of the filmmaking and stuff like that.
Nice.
I mean, obviously it's an iPhone, so it's not that impressive, and natural lighting. So you know what I mean. But the editing, that's where I kind of.
The thing is, you can't tell when you watch the clips that it's on an iPhone or that it's natural lighting.
I appreciate that, dude.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's the magic, right, of filmmaking, dude. Like that's what I learned. Like we did things where we would shoot on one wall and everything else, obviously with flats. You know what I mean? Like you could just break down the set. So I kind of learned from that.
Yeah,
and my girlfriend's a designer as well, so she did all this.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Because I saw, I think it was like last week for the first time I saw like a clip of your podcast. I think it was Miranda Meadows.
Okay.
And you're doing it. So something that bothers me, and I've been on a few podcasts where I'm like, I don't want to share this.
Right.
Because it's kind of putting the cart before the horse, or they're like doing a lot of clickbaity stuff.
Yeah.
And they're not just focused on like the quality of the thing.
Right.
But I watch your clips, I watch your interviews and shit, and it's all well done, and it's focused on like doing a good thing or like a good job with the conversation. And then you just put out the clips and make that as good. Whereas I see a lot of people and they're all like, this is all clip oriented.
Right. Clickbait, like you said, going viral.
Yeah. And like the titles, because one of them was like, is Luke Walls the next roast battle champion? And this is after I did like 2 roasts. And I'm like,
I see.
There's no way I'm sharing this.
Yeah.
Because it's embarrassing for me.
Right. That's actually good feedback. Because sometimes I will try to do that, get clickbaity, but it never works out, dude. And like the whole idea of this, the whole mission statement for this podcast was honestly at the beginning for me to just learn about stand-up and try to progress as fast as I can through experienced comedians.
Right.
You know, and trust me, dude, like I don't think if I didn't start this podcast, there's no way in my stand-up I would be right where I am. Because there are things that people tell me where I don't see at first, but I'm aware of. And when I finally do see it on the dot, I'm like, okay, so this comedian said that this was the problem. I know how to fix it now. Yeah. As opposed to just going into it blindsided where I don't talk to anyone and I don't know what I'm doing. You know, like I can equate it back to CJ, the second episode I had. Dude told me he did 21 mics a week, and I was fucking floored.
I was watching that clip, and it's funny. God. I have like the same rule for myself, and I think it's a good rule, especially because I mean, so like the day I did my first ever open mic, I watched Ari Shafir's like comedy advice video. It's like a 3-hour video, but it's got a lot of good stuff. Some of it's outdated, but he said like for the first 5 years, all you're focused on is getting good.
Yeah,
and I think if you're lucky enough to live in LA or New York, definitely shoot for that.
Yeah. And obviously, just to do it faster, it's not going to happen. You know what I mean? Because you can't rush things like this. But I'm just trying to see if I can. And at the same time, if someone wanted to start stand-up, they could just go to the Instagram page, right? And then kind of see what I pick out. Or just go listen to the podcast and learn something.
And you've done a good job of picking out, like, good advice.
Thank you.
Because, like that CJ one. And actually what Mo was saying about like the ego thing.
Yeah, man, that was
solid advice.
Dude, that's something I've struggled with everything I've done. Like I was telling him in the podcast, jiu-jitsu, filmmaking, fucking everything, dude. And with this, I don't want that. Like do you know this book, Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck?
I've heard the name.
So it's like a self-help book. It's the author's name is Mark Manson. I follow him on Twitter, but he said on Twitter, he did a tweet and he was just like, don't think you're the undiscovered genius at your art.
Yeah.
Think of it as just you want to be a student. And that's when I started this podcast. I was like, this is why I have to do it, because I'm a student of stand-up now. I'm a student of this. And that's the best I can do. Right? I can get good at it, hopefully. You know what I mean? Or nothing can happen, but I'm okay with that because my goal for this is just to be the best student of stand-up I can possibly be, dude.
And that's such a good way to approach it, because like I said before, like putting the cart before the horse. And so like when I did comedy in Canada, there's so much like the supply and demand is completely turned over, right? So there's like so few comedians and so much shows. Everyone within like the first couple months is like, I need to be paid for every show I'm doing. A lot of people just don't do open mics, and they're like 6 months in.
Wow.
And you don't develop if you have that idea. Like all the rejection we face in LA and New York, all the humbling, and like you go to the store and like no one is like, you're nothing, like quiet down in this conversation. Yeah. That's so good for us.
Right. Right. True.
Yeah. The more like you got to kind of grind through these hardships, and then eventually it goes well. And like, especially with like being paid, I always ask people, I'm like, would you pay to see you? And I mean, for most people, if they're being honest, it's like, no, not yet.
Yeah, no, not at all. I would not pay
I
to
think
see
I've
me.
recently got to the point where I'm like, yeah, I would, but
And how long have you been doing stand-up?
4.5 years.
Gee, yeah, see, that's really common with everyone I talk to. It's 3 to 4 to 5 years. You're finally like understanding. 2 years, like you see a shift, but that 3 to 5 is like where you become an adult.
Yeah.
Almost, right?
And like some of that time, like obviously during the pandemic, I was in Canada. I couldn't do it at all. But then at the same time, while I've been in LA or New York, I've been doing, the CJ method of like shooting for 21 a week.
Yeah. I've upped it for sure.
Yeah.
Especially recently where I kind of slowed down on the podcast and really started focusing on the stand-up. I've upped it to like maybe I'm at 15 now, maybe 15 to
that's
20,
good.
Yeah.
I mean, that's if you stay consistent with that, like that's going to be big development. And it's so important to be a constant presence in the scene.
Right. Yeah.
Because people that I only see every once in a while, I don't really, devote my time to get to know them.
Exactly.
I don't really want to do like shows. I wouldn't ask them on the podcast because,
Right.
They're not really, into it.
Right. 100%, dude. And that's that's why I was so grateful that my first two was Joe and then CJ, especially CJ, bro. Cause like that was one where I felt like everyone's like, okay, this kid, he's kind of corny, but he's known what he's doing.
Well, and Joe, if you're looking for like a role model of work ethic, I mean, look no further.
Right.
I was telling someone yesterday, it was like, as far as the school of rock, never stop rocking thing.
Dude,
That's
shit.
Joe entirely. But I mean, these just running fourth wall, which by the way, he is the guy that came up with the slotted method.
Really?
Which is so beneficial to people trying to do, 15, 20 mics a week.
Exactly.
Because you can do them hour after hour.
Is he really the godfather of this?
He is.
No shit.
Yeah, he started, because before it was all bucket mics and like lists, and it would take a long, when you go to those mics, you don't get up as soon.
Right. And this one, you know exactly when you're going up.
Exactly.
Dude, that's crazy. He's the OG of that. That's wild.
And he's been running it, and I mean, yeah, like you can just see like how dedicated he is to it. And
Bro, I went to the show last night, the late one, and fucking I asked him, I was like, dude, when do you go on vacation? And he's like, and then he was like, I do go on vacation. I go back up to see my parents in North California. I'm like, no, dude, he's like, for 3 days. I'm like, no, that's not a vacation. That's just a weekend.
Exactly. He drives, it's like 6 hours away to see his parents.
Yeah, dude. So, I mean, I give it up for him. This shit gets difficult, especially having to deal with some comedians, man. Fuck.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, too. It's like, he runs, like, sometimes people complain about fourth wall because it's like the rules are pretty strictly enforced. Mm-hmm. But again, that lets you do it, like, because then you're not dealing with other people's nonsense.
Exactly.
You don't have people coming out doing their set and then leaving.
Exactly.
Because like I host at Badger and Jam, and that happens a lot.
Oh, really?
And or I used to host there.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's nice to have those rules enforced. To have one place where it's like pretty strict, and you just know you go there and you follow the rules.
Yeah. And it's
the mics are
supportive
good.
too. And it's they are, dude. They're supportive. Like I went today to the Improv, dude, and it was maybe 7 of us, all dudes, but fucking the greatest fucking time today, bro. We were just riffing off each other, dude. It's so much fun just going to these fucking...
Those improv mics are so valuable.
So valuable.
Just for like learning to kind of think on your feet, but also you get material out of it.
So that's, dude, for the first 2.5 months, that's what I was doing. I was just hitting improv mics.
Nice.
And every once in a while I hit open mic, but the improv is what made me comfortable and find out what's making people laugh.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So those, I agree, they're so beneficial, especially for someone starting out, dude. Yeah. Really cool.
How long have you been doing it?
3 months.
3 months, okay.
3 months in a week.
Yeah. Well, that's good that you, I mean, like, people know you at this point.
Well, I kind of had help. I knew Miranda.
Okay.
I had worked with her once, like almost 2 years ago, and then my first open mic in LA, she was at Fourth Wall, and I was like, "Yo,
nice.
We worked together," and then that's what kind of helped me, like, get into the community. I feel like, yeah, just because she was really nice to me, you know.
That's another person who works hard. I mean, she
Hustler.
runs 2 of the most popular shows for comics to go to, like Comic Wars and Shenanigans.
Right.
I know she's at those noon ones a lot.
Right.
And
dude.
And now she's a door guy.
Dude, she's a hustler.
Yeah.
She is a hustler. She's fucking great.
Yeah, we because our battle, me and her is a Jam in the Van.
Oh, yeah, I saw some
the clip
clips.
just came out this week, and we're both like, they edited it so weird that it makes it look like we're both bombing. We're like, we swear it was a good battle.
That's interesting with the edit too. Like I'm starting to see now how people are using the edit, especially because I do it. You know what I mean? But like how they can manipulate.
Yeah.
And how it could not manipulate, but take away sometimes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's interesting.
Because if you watch the YouTube video, it doesn't look as bad.
Okay, I'll watch the YouTube video.
But yeah, no. And I was so glad because like she brought it up when I saw it for the first time after it came out, and I'm like, I'm so glad you said that because it's been bothering me for a day now.
No, she's a real one, bro. She's one of those like she's from what my understanding, she kind of stays away from the social media and like she understands that the art rather than marketing the art. You know what I mean? Or not marketing the art. I don't want to say that wrong, but she knows where her heart is in the game. You know what I mean?
And for me, like who I like kind of like want to associate with and like want to work with, that's one of the biggest things. Because I mean, you see some people and they have a huge social media following, and then you see them at a mic or like at a show, and you're like, oh, they're bad, they're terrible at this.
It's wild, dude. Like at first, I was coming into this all green and shit. I was impressed by everybody, and then, but it's like after like the first month, you can sniff them out.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like what you said. There's people here who have like hundreds of thousands of followers, but they step on stage and it's like, what the fuck?
And it can feel mean. Like I get like a pit in my stomach when I'm like, this comic is just bad, doesn't get comedy, or this comic. And this is especially like when I feel like they're manipulating comedy. Mm-hmm. But I feel like if you care about comedy, you kind of have to call it out.
Yeah, absolutely. And you, as a comedian, you feel fake doing it. You know what I mean? Like you can tell, like when they're on stage and it's just not there. Like there's no soul.
Well, that's also the funny thing about these, like the WGA and the SAG strike, is you'll see members of the guild show up, but never twice.
But never twice.
So many WGA people come into mics and they're like, yeah, I'm actually like a professional. Like, if you have any questions, you know, let me just ask. And then they get up and they're like, oh, this is an entirely different ball game.
Let me check this lighting because I feel like it's gotten darker. Oh, no, we're good.
It's almost like turned me against the guilds a little bit, just the condescension from the members. First day after the SAG strike, this one actor comes to a mic and he comes to the store with us afterwards. Yeah. And so there's a whole group of us, and he's kind of dominating the conversation. So everyone's annoyed. Everyone leaves but me. And then he shows me his reel on his phone.
Oh, my God. Are you serious, bro?
And I couldn't believe it was. It's one of those things that if you heard someone tell that story on stage, you'd be like, you're making that up. But it was.
No, it happens, man. It fucking happens, bro.
It's funny, the totally different mindset between actors and comics.
Oh, my gosh. It's wild.
Yeah. That being said, once I get to Toronto, I'm going to start auditioning for stuff.
Are you?
Just because you got to try.
Yeah,
I mean.
And, dude, they're making movies out there now, especially with the strike going on. They're going to Canada. They're going to Korea, Europe, everywhere but America, which is smart if you want to keep making content. You know what I mean?
This could be bad because if they find out like how much cheaper it is to make it in Canada and they just get used to it.
Well, dude, fucking even Tom Hanks is saying, I don't know what it was. I've quickly glimpsed over it, but he was saying how AI now is just going to start making movies of younger Tom Hanks. And he's like, he's going to go out of business. And it's just like, well, I mean, he's not far off. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, look at Avatar, how much they were able to achieve with Avatar in terms of realism, you know, and everything like Marvel movies now, you know. It's crazy, bro. I don't know where that's going. Like
I feel like
stuff.
People always say like, is ChatGPT gonna like replace comics?
Right.
But ChatGPT won't say anything racist or problematic, so I'm good. It's just gonna be me, ChatGPT, and Michael Richards crushing comedy in 5 years.
Michael fucking Richards, dude, the legend. Fucking A, dude. What was I gonna say? So I've always heard about the Gen Z crowd. And how you kind of have to tailor your jokes for it. I just heard about it. Last night I went to a show, mainly Gen Z, and I finally saw what it was like. How do you... And I was with a comic who I think is a killer, dude, and nothing from this crowd. Nothing, because he's a little bit more edgy. How do you prep for that?
So people are always like... Because whenever I do like an East Side show or an East Side mic, like I have friends that are like, how did you do that? But honestly, my Tight 5 is not nearly as rough as what I do at mics. So like I just have like topics I go to for that, or if it's a lot of women or something like that. And it's mostly just about like me trying to kill myself and like being a virgin.
And that's what they laugh at?
That's what they're cool with. Okay, if you look at, because Gen Zs are so into like their trauma and whatnot. that if you just like kind of trauma dump, they're like, this is normal to us.
That makes so much sense.
Whereas like if you're doing like an older crowd, they're like, oh, tried to kill yourself.
Feel bad for you.
Yeah.
We want to help.
Because then I also have like...
True. That's kind of true and fucked up.
Yeah.
That's the generation that's like, you got fucked up too.
So you kind of just get a sense of like what kind of audiences, like, yeah, with them. And then with black crowds, I just do basically just racism for 10 minutes. And that's what works.
Racism against what?
Black people.
No kidding. And it works.
I basically get up and be like, I'm annoyed by you guys. And
it works?
Better than any other kind of comedy in front of any audience.
Holy fuck, no way.
There's two ways to do well in front of black crowds. One is like the Gary Owen way of just pandering the whole time. Mm-hmm. And then the other way is just kind of with reckless abandon. And I learned that there's this show in Brooklyn that was like all black show. It was at like a black owned business. And I was doing bad. And I also like, I was getting a low blood sugar because I have diabetes. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, grab the stool and I sit on it. And I'm like, I wasn't really thinking clearly at that point because when your blood sugar's low, you can't think straight.
Right.
And so I was like, sorry, I have diabetes, that's why they let me on a black show. And it was one of the biggest pops I've ever gotten in my life. And
bro, that is amazing.
I don't think I posted it anywhere, but I have the clip on my phone.
Dude, you have to. That
of
is
just
amazing.
one old man in the back yelling, "Talk that shit!" And then I was like, "Oh, this is what you do."
No fucking way. Have you seen an Asian in front of a black crowd? Because I'm not gonna lie, I'm terrified. I'm terrified to go up in front of a black crowd. I have no idea what to talk about.
So my biggest advice, if you're gonna try, well, again, because the only method I do is that like reckless abandon thing. Mm-hmm. But if you're doing any kind of like offensive or like kind of off topic like comedy, the biggest thing is you can't entertain the thought that you shouldn't be doing this.
You can't entertain the thought of you shouldn't be doing it.
Like you gotta talk like
this is.
I'm saying this, and of course I'm saying this because this is right, and we're all on board. And don't. Because a lot of people want to pander to black audiences, and a lot of people want to apologize, like especially if you're a straight white guy. And there's no kind of comic I hate more than the "I'm sorry, I'm a straight white guy" comic.
Okay, but, that makes sense.
Just go up there and be like, either have the confidence in who you are or feign the confidence in who you are, and that's a big thing too with black crowds is confidence.
True,
or
very
fake
true.
confidence.
Yeah, that's very true.
No, but I mean, after you do a couple, you figure it out.
Okay. Yeah. Are there any like black open mics?
Not in LA, really.
No.
There used to be Next Up, which was like kind of the closest thing we had. But that stopped. But that was a great mic. I loved it so much.
Shit.
New York has more of them.
Oh, okay. So are you going to be? So you're moving to Toronto in a couple weeks. Are you going to be going to New York?
Yeah, that's the plan. Is to as much as I can go out there for a week at a time and.
Okay.
Because I work from home, so I can kind of be wherever.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Hell yeah. Well, let's talk about you coming on the show because I'd put out to preface this. I had put out a post on the Successful Failure asking for a comic who was Christian, and you replied, and also Evan Warner. And I don't know. This is not because of the whole Joe Rogan thing right now. Like I saw that clip today.
Oh, the Oliver Anthony thing?
Yeah.
I haven't watched it yet, but yeah.
I didn't even know he was on the podcast, and I had no idea the dude was Christian. So this is not, I want to preface, this is not because of that. It's because, honestly, dude, like it's been a thing where I just had a deep conversation with a buddy of mine a couple of days ago, and preface even more, I grew up Catholic my whole life.
Right.
You know what I mean? Basically, it was, I feel like God is talking to me. You know what I mean? How long have you been a Christian?
My whole life. I started taking it seriously, I'd say, around like sophomore year of college.
Okay. Was there an event that happened, or what was that?
Just kind of the community I was in. I went to a very small Christian college, and I just had like a lot of good mentors. And I was kind of learning more like the theological aspects, like the deeper theological things. And that was big for me, just like understanding it more. Mm-hmm.
And then you've read the Bible?
Yeah.
The whole thing?
Yeah.
And so basically, like I said, I grew up, went to Catholic school up until I was 18. As soon as I turned 18, I was like one of those people that went completely atheist.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because Catholicism, dude, that's a really different
ball
game than
and that's
Christianity.
Like a funny thing in comedy is I have to keep explaining. I'm like, they're two different religions.
Very different.
But if you're not Protestant and like serious about it, like everyone's like sounds the same.
Yeah. And then when I was 26, I fucking did some acid, and I was like, oh, there is a God. You know what I mean? And because of how things have been going these past couple of years, especially since like 2020, 2021, I've been finding myself just like closer and closer going back to the Christian side. You know what I mean? Like not back to Catholicism, but more of Christianity. And I don't know why, dude. Like I said, I was talking to my buddy, and he's very, very Christian, and we talk. I've known him since high school. Yeah. And he was just like, he'll find you. You know what I mean? And bro, as soon as I got off that phone call, I turned on Spotify, and the first fucking song was Isaiah Ryder. It was Heavenly Father.
Oh yeah, I like that one.
And I was like, bro, what? And I listened to the song, and I was like, dude, this is weird. And even deeper is that, remember we went to the Comedy Store like a week ago?
Yeah.
I was going to ask you to be on the podcast, but reading you was kind of hard. I didn't think you fucked with me. So I was just like, all right, whatever. Like, maybe I'll ask him before he leaves. And it was just so weird how, if I were to ask you then, I would have had you on the podcast earlier, and we wouldn't have ever had this conversation about Christianity. So again, it's like one of those things where it's a sign, dude. You know what I mean? I don't know. Basically, I don't know why I just want to talk about this. Like what? I don't know. What am I supposed to do, bro? Because it's just, it's so hard for me to talk, and it's so hard for me to put in words because I've just been thinking about it for so long. You know what I mean? Even with my girlfriend, like I'll tell her sometimes, but I'm just kind of working things out. Like, but they always say with every good, there's bad. You know, the moon needs the sun, right? The yin and the yang. And because of all the evil that's just been coming out these past few years, dude, there's got to be the same amount of good. Yeah. And honestly, dude, I'm finding out that God and Christianity, I don't know if it's technically religion, but just God and period is like, I see it now. Yeah. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that I'm full-blown religious again or Christian or anything like that, but just developing a relationship. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. It was weird.
Have you like tried going to church since?
No, I haven't, dude. I haven't been to church since maybe I was 19 for like Christmas or something like that. Okay. Obviously, Catholic church. Or actually, there was actually a small stint where I went to a Christian church, but that one felt really culty. Okay. So I dipped out.
Yeah, that's the thing is there's like this very wide breadth of like the denominations and how they like, because yeah, like there's a lot of people like people would associate like Joel Osteen with what I am,
right, dude?
And I'm like, well, no, he's the opposite of what God wants,
right? And I hate when people pick one person out of a group, and it's like, you know what I mean? Especially with politics, that's how politics is, dude. Yeah, it's like divide and conquer, right? Yeah. Like fucking let them fight, and then we can do whatever we want.
What's the thing is like people assume I'm like hardcore like conservative Republican because I'm like the Christian guy,
right?
And I'm like, I don't vote or care about any of
That's so stupid to fucking look at people, though. You know what I mean? Yeah. As soon as you attach them to something, it's like you don't even give them a chance. Yeah. You know, and maybe that's a part of why I kind of left filmmaking, because there was only one ideology you had to follow in Hollywood, and if you didn't follow it, you didn't fit in.
That's so freeing about comedy is that there's more.
You don't even know, bro. The things I say on stage, I could never say on a film set. Never.
That's how I felt coming out of law school. Is like, yeah, you can't say anything, and like I was like, I would still say it because I've always been super open about it. But I'm like, I knew there would be like heat if I mentioned I was Christian.
Do you have any Christian jokes that you go to?
Yeah, there's a few. I've been trying to do one about like the second commandment and how like Catholics always have these images of God, and I'm like, dude, you blew it after 2. Yeah. No, I have a few, and then like a lot of it comes out through like the jokes about like abstinence and stuff, because that's like so foreign to most comics, right?
Very true, very true.
And yeah, like a lot of people, sometimes people are like surprised to find out I'm a Christian because like the roast battling and like just the topics I do of like race and just, like all that and stuff. But like I don't think like the Christian method is not to ignore that there's sin in the world or bad things. And so like I'm not going to just avoid these topics because of it. Like I'm going to make jokes, and then also, you know, in comedy you have to understand that they're jokes. Like obviously I'm not in favor of like slavery, right, or like rape. Yeah, I'm just talking about it,
right.
And I think, like, I always say, like, I'm not a clean comic, but I do think I make sin look bad. And so that's like the evangelism I do on stage. Because there was a guy that would come to Fourth Wall a lot, and he like had recently become a Christian, but he would just be so aggressive. Like, he wouldn't do jokes. He would just kind of like preach for $5 at Fourth Wall. And it was not well received.
Fuck
like,
no.
you do kind of got to just like become a part of the community and like kind of people see how your life is different.
Right.
And I have had people like comics like reach out to me and be like, I'm kind of starting to like come to Christianity, and that's awesome.
What do you notice that's similar with all of us coming to you and talking about?
Well, a lot of it is I'm the only Christian they know, or like the one that's serious about it. Because there's also there's a good number of Christians that I've met in comedy who are like, I'm also Christian, but keep it on the DL.
No way.
And that's so frustrating.
That is fucked up.
Yeah, or like people who
because
are
that's
like,
why I haven't said I'm Christian or you know what I mean, fully on board, because I don't feel like I can commit to that commitment.
Well, I think there's a responsibility if you're a
Right.
Christian, especially in something where there's not a lot, to be outspoken about it and never deny it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what bothers me too, is there's a lot of like comics who like claim Christianity, but then whenever they talk about it on stage, it's just about how stupid it is,
dude.
And
And that's literally in the Bible. Like, even though my background's in Catholicism, that's literally what they talk about. Like, that's why people were getting killed.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Because of that kind of shit.
mm-hmm.
I don't know, man. That's a strange thing that people hide it.
Yeah, it's frustrating, but it is also like just so cool when you meet another Christian in comedy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know if you know Daniel Lee.
I don't know.
He's Christian. He's open about it.
Mm-hmm.
There was one guy in New York that I hung out with a bunch, and he's like very open about it and stuff, and like, it's great. But yeah, you do kind of feel like you're on an island sometimes, and like people won't want to like discuss their evening plans with you,
Right.
But then yeah, it's and it's also weird because like I would never be like on the Christian comedy circuit because of what I do.
Yeah, right. True.
Which, I mean, there's so much money in that.
That's very true too. That's very true.
But yeah, like I don't know. One thing that's been like really encouraging is do you know Nate Bargatze, comic? He's a comic from Nashville. He's Christian and he's like all clean.
Oh, Nate Bargatze. Yeah.
And he's got like his podcast with 3 other Christian guys, or one Catholic, 2 Christian guys. And that's awesome just that exists.
Right.
And it's like something I can point to of like, it's not all lame and corny.
Mm-hmm.
There's these like 4 funny guys who have like one of the most successful comedy podcasts. So yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Just like having something like that to point to.
Mm-hmm. Well, even like the Joe Rogan thing, dude, like that guy, the whole idea of it is that this is like a conspiracy theory, but they're saying that with Joe Rogan, if he turns Christian, then that's going to be the biggest platform for Christian. You know what?
It would. I mean, it would be huge.
Right. And again, this is not. I'm not doing this fucking episode because of Joe Rogan. Okay. I've got fucking personal problems I'm going through, so I'm trying to figure it out. No.
And he is kind of admired by a lot of Christians. Not like everyone recognizes that he's like kind of like agnostic, but
well, he just speaks his mind.
That's
dude.
the thing. Is there like, because like especially nowadays.
Yeah, dude, and that's the thing that I don't get. Like throughout history, if in any part of history, even now, not even history, in governments now, like let's say Russia, North Korea, China, if you were to say anything against the ideology of their government, you would be put to jail.
Yeah.
Yet we're kind of doing it here.
Yeah, I mean, you get canceled.
Right? And it's just like, oh, that would never happen to us, but we're doing it right fucking now.
Yeah, and like whenever you like mention an episode of Joe Rogan, you gotta like clarify.
Yeah, dude. And it's just like, I don't understand how people don't see the correlation with that. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it's, again, coming into comedy, most of the people I met are real ones, bro, where they can see that BS, no matter where they are in the political line. You know what I mean? Left or right, dude. Like, everyone's here is just fucking free and open and know that it doesn't come from a hurtful place, but we can make fun of this shit.
Comedy definitely, just being in it definitely takes you out of the idea of like them versus us for a lot of people. But then there's some people who get even more, and their whole set is like, if you go to an East Side mic and it's all just like, my dad's a Republican, so I hate him even though he pays for my apartment. And it's just so much of that, and it's annoying. And that's why you kind of like Shane Gillis does such a good job of it.
He really does.
Of just towing the line.
Yeah.
And he's like, I got a Fox News dad.
Yeah.
We all got Fox News dads.
And that dude, that line, everyone fucking it popped, dude.
Yeah, he's like, you don't want an MSNBC dad.
That's right. He's hilarious, bro. He's a great comic.
I can't wait for Tuesday. It comes out.
Yeah, dude. That's right. That's right. Well, who's your favorite comic right now in the game?
Right now it's Shane Gillis.
Yeah,
I saw him at the Cellar when I was in New York earlier this year.
Okay.
And it was like nothing I've ever seen.
Really?
Yeah, like that's the most like starstruck I've ever been. I was like, I went home and I was like, I'm never gonna reach that, but that's the only goal now is to be that level.
What is the ultimate goal for you for this stand-up stuff? Like, what would be the end goal for you?
Oh shoot, what's his name? I want Dave Attell's life.
Dave Attell?
Yeah. I just want to be very respected by other comics for my joke writing. I want to, during the week, I want to do clubs in either LA or New York. And then during the weekend, I want to do the road. I don't have like any like acting aspirations or like writing. I just want to do stand up and just have that be what I do.
Are you afraid at all going to Toronto and having to, I don't want to say restart, but like getting to know the community, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially because there's, like when I did comedy in Alberta, where I'm from, so much negativity that I never experienced here.
Really? How, like what?
I mean, again, because of like the opportunities I was talking about earlier, they like an Alberta comic will have, and this is not like there are people there that I had a great time getting to know, but generally they have 8 times the ego with half the talent of like someone.
Oh my gosh,
at
dude.
the same level in LA or New York.
Oh my god!
Just because they're kind of coddled and like they get stuff too early, and so I'm nervous it's gonna be like that in Toronto, because it is like it's the biggest scene in Canada, but it's still small, much smaller than what I'm used to.
That's just true.
But I mean, people keep telling me it's good, and I have friends that like did comedy there, and they're like, "Yeah, I'll try to like introduce you to people."
Okay, that's good.
I'm definitely nervous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you'll do fine, bro. I was talking to another comic today about it because I told him I was going to have you today, and he's just like, dude, you're a killer. You'll do fine out there, bro.
Hopefully. But the other thing is, like, in Canada, it's so much more sensitive.
Than L.A.?
Yeah, so that Gen Z crowd kind of idea,
yeah,
that goes basically throughout the age spectrum.
What?
Especially in the cities. Like, if you go out into the country and do, like, a biker bar,
yeah,
you can let it fly.
Makes sense.
But, no, and that was another thing is there was so much of that politics. Is like, oh, you can't, like, you really can't be middle ground there. You got to be far left.
Oh my gosh, bro! I don't understand how people don't see this, like how this is like a problem.
Well, in Canada, like one comic, the Human Rights Board, like sued him, and then it went all the way to the Supreme Court. Luckily, he ended up winning.
For what? A joke?
For making jokes about a retarded kid. Yeah.
Dude, are you serious?
It's wild, and like, yeah, the trial level he lost, the appellate level he lost, and then it took the Supreme Court to be like, I guess we can't do this. But they were like if you read the opinion, like they're very begrudging to, you know, follow the
fuck?
Charter of Rights and Freedoms. It's wild.
Holy shit, I had no idea it was like that, man.
There's like a Canadian comedy union that started off, and like you don't really have to join it. There's no teeth to it. But it started off as like just a way to try to work on the visa situation because it's so much harder for Canadian comics to come down here than it is for Americans to go up there. And but then they kind of gave up on that, and now it's just like we don't support this club because they let this guy perform.
Dude, what the fuck, man?
Yeah. And they're like,
That's
pay your
wild.
dues. And I'm like, I'm not paying for my dues for an organization that's going to tell me that I'm blacklisted. So
that is wild, bro.
So my hope is that Toronto is a big enough scene that that's not it. Because the other thing is these scenes are like Edmonton and Calgary, they're too small to have a diversity of opinions. Because like here, we have kind of like our clubs and like open mics and stuff. And then we have the East Side.
Right.
Which is kind of just this
I've never done a mic
other
there.
scene.
Never done a mic there because I hear the same from everybody.
Yeah. And like same in New York, like they have like the Brooklyn hipster area. And then you have like the Lower East Side, which is kind of what I would do. And so, yeah, but yeah. Edmonton and Calgary were too small to have that. So it was just one way goes. But I'm hoping Toronto's at least big enough that that's not happening.
That's so crazy. I had no idea that there's fucking businesses, or not even business, just corporations who fucking sued you for saying some shit. The government.
Yeah, it was
That's so wild, bro.
Yeah, Canada. I mean, Canada just in general is kind of off the reservation with that kind of stuff. But if it is like that, I'll just make a lot of trips to Detroit and New York.
Yeah, Detroit's not that far from you either.
Yes, I think it's like a 4-hour drive. I don't know. Yeah, I haven't heard too much about the Detroit scene.
Okay.
But I imagine it's a lot of black shows.
That's true. That's very true.
That'll be fun.
Yeah, you'd be like the fucking 8 Mile.
Yeah.
Out there in Detroit, dude. That'd be hilarious.
Yeah, I come in with a very timid, Slim Shady method.
The Canadian Slim Shady.
Yeah.
I want to go back to the Christian thing again because I just need to figure this out. I feel like like I said, it's been feeling like it's just closer and closer that I have to kind of.
Have you like been reading the Bible at all? Like giving that a shot? Oh, nice.
I don't know if it's the right Bible, but it's just one I had.
I mean, there's
I haven't read all of it. You know what I mean? Sporadically.
Most people haven't.
I'll open the book and just read like a page or two just to kind of see what he's trying to tell me.
Yeah.
And bro, crazy enough, I fucking read John 20 today.
Okay.
And it talks about fucking him ascending, you know what I mean, and telling his disciples to accept him as the son of, and you know, I just weird how that was the one I read today. And it's just like, dude, like it's just, I've always been that guy where their life will give you signs on what you got to do or what you should do. And I think this has just become one of those things, man, where I don't want to say bow down, but it's just like, dude, like, again, there's so much evil that's happening right now, and people don't even realize how evil they are. Right. You know, and it's not even like I'm saying like they're going out killing people, but it's just like a simple you're welcome. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It'd be nice out here in LA to, when I say thank you, I can get a you're welcome.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or just look me in the eye and we can just, how was your day? As opposed to just fucking looking like a fucking zombie.
And honestly, a recognition of that is big. I think I think most people's conversion stories begin with an acknowledgement of like the evil in the world and in themselves.
Right. Yes, dude.
So like what are like the kind of like denominator, like the branch of Christianity, it's called Calvinism. Mm-hmm. And there's like 5 points of Calvinism, and the first one is total depravity, which is just like this recognition that kind of in and of ourselves we're inherently sinful.
Right.
And, you know, it's evil. And, like,
right.
Because if you go into Christianity without that acknowledgement that there's a need for God
right.
and for, like, Jesus' work on the cross, then you're going to lose it because...
And you're just wasting time. Your time.
It's so easy to be like, well, I don't need this.
Right.
And it's going to be better to go do things that feel good. So, yeah, no, I think it's good that, like, it's a good building block, like, as that first step.
Mm-hmm.
And like honestly, like consistency of like reading the Bible and like if you start going to church, as you do that, I mean, you're going to be like fed with more and more of like scripture and stuff, and questions will be answered. It's a slowly but surely thing, but
it makes sense that that's the way it is, dude.
Yeah.
Because that's the way it's been, dude. I've been fucking denying him since I was 18, bro. Before like maybe 16, 17.
Yeah.
I'm like, fuck this guy. This guy's not real. All this shit. And literally, dude, every step of the way, he's just fucking showed me something else different about it. And it's just like, bro, he's there.
Yeah.
He is literally fucking here right now, dude. And it's so fucking, like, I get goosebumps just thinking about it, dude. And it's just fucking weird, dude. How, I don't know. It's like, it could go back to always the evil. And, you know, I don't know, man. It's just so hard where you just feel like that's the only thing that's gonna not protect you, not give you the strength, but to let me know that is okay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because Catholicism, I forget who I was talking to, but it's a really weird thing where there's the difference between Catholicism and Christianity is like with Catholicism, it's like not the relationship with God, but what you do for him. in a sense, right? With the sacraments, with the praying, going to church and stuff like that, where Christianity is really just you got building blocks of the relationship with God. Yeah. And that's what I was just like, dude, he wants that relationship with me. I feel like I can feel it, dude. Yeah. And it sounds so trippy. Believe me, like I said, I was on acid fucking, for like 2-3 years. So I've said some trippy shit. This to me is the trippiest thing that I'm saying right now, that I really do believe it, that there is a God, and fucking maybe in a sense, he's telling me I'm on the right path. Yeah. Because with this comedy, this podcast, dude, like there's no way that me going through all this and realizing and just being happy. Yeah. Dude, I was so fucking depressed before I got into comedy. And I was such a shitty person.
I'm the same way. I feel like the biggest blessing that's ever been given to me is comedy.
Right, dude?
Yeah, I've tried these other things, and, law school looks like it was now a very expensive mistake.
No kidding.
But, yeah, and then, like, I started doing comedy, like, the last month of law school, and it's the most fun I've ever had doing anything. It's, the most fulfillment I get.
Agreed.
Yeah, and I mean... Yeah, I think it is like a blessing that God gave to you too, and it gives you like a contentedness. It also gives you a community,
right?
Which is big, because
a very comfortable community, dude, where I can talk about whatever I want, and not feel like I'm being judged.
And honestly, like comedy, like for the most part, people that aren't Christians are very welcoming of it. There's a few people who like shit on me, or like I know, like
it's just an easy
think I'm dumb.
Yeah, it's an easy thing.
But most people don't care, and some people are like, that's cool. Some people have come to Christianity and like talk to me. It's
try bringing this on a film set, bro. You'd be burnt to the stake.
Exactly.
It's crazy.
One of my favorite things is like sometimes a comic will like go up before me and they'll just like spend the whole time just shitting on Christianity, and then I'll get up and I'm like, that was good. I can't wait to hear your set about Islam. Do it, you coward.
What would be your suggestion for me moving forward with, I guess, building a relationship, dude? Like, obviously I'm like, reading the book, and when do you think, I mean, I guess it would just be a thing where on my own, I would just go to church. You know what I mean?
So I think that's a big thing. And like, if you read Hebrews, it talks a lot about like, that like church is meant to like, it's one of the gifts from God of like this community of believers to like build each other up. Christianity isn't something you can do on your own. Like that relationship with God is obviously that relationship is first, but it's kind of like commingled with your relationship with brothers and sisters in Christ. So I would definitely recommend like find a church you're comfortable with.
Right.
Because like obviously there's going to be ones that you're not.
Exactly, and that's what I'm afraid of. I don't want to get taken advantage of again. You know what I mean? Like I want. If I'm going to go and do it, like I want to find. I don't want to go through the bullshit. I want to make sure the community I am a part of is like, there's nothing really shady about it. Everyone's cool people. You know what I mean? Because I'm not gonna lie, it feels culty sometimes. You know what I mean?
And especially if you're coming, like you haven't been in the church for a while,
yeah,
or like you've been in like Catholicism, and it is a different thing. I don't know. I know, like, for a lot of people, it's easier to, like, join a church with, like, younger members when they're, like, new.
Okay.
So that might be something to look for. But, yeah, and then just the consistency of, like, reading the Bible. And, I mean, some books I might recommend.
Yeah, please do.
C.S. Lewis's Mere Christianity.
Okay. C.S. Lewis wrote a book about Christianity?
Yeah, he's got a few theological books.
Oh, shit.
And Mere Christianity is great because it is just like, it's kind of like an introductory. It's like a Christianity for dummies.
Okay. Perfect for me.
Yeah. And then another one, it's The Cost of Discipleship by Dietrich Bonhoeffer.
Okay.
He did something in the Holocaust for Jews. I don't remember what it was, but he was, helping Jews.
Right. Okay.
But yeah, his book, and like, that didn't go well for him.
Obviously.
The book? No, just helping Jews.
Yeah,
and
of course.
Nazis didn't like it.
Yeah. I wonder why.
But that book is great, I think, as like a second book to read, because whereas like Mere Christianity is kind of like this introductory, Cost of Discipleship does give you kind of that gravity of what it really means for it to be like impactful in your life.
Okay.
And also just like, so like when they asked Jesus to like sum up the law, he said the first commandment is love the Lord your God with all your heart, and the second is like it, love your neighbor as yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, I think that's something a lot of people, that's what's so countercultural, especially like right now, is that a lot of Christianity is outward. You know, it's like you and God, and then you and the people around you. So you try to be, loving.
Right, exactly.
And that cost of discipleship really hits on that well.
Okay.
Yeah. So I would definitely recommend those 2 books.
Okay.
And they're not long. They're not tough reads or anything.
Yeah, because I just feel like I don't know how to make this relationship stronger, and I want to.
Yeah.
You know, like I said, I don't know if I'm a Christian yet or not. I don't know what I am. You know what I mean? But maybe a believer, yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But
see, obviously, like reading the Bible, that's the best thing
yeah.
as far as like taking in knowledge about like God and your relationship with it in the world. But I mean, it's just helpful to have these books that explain it.
Of course. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Especially like the first one that you said, the C.S. Lewis one, like for a dummy. Like, because I'll read that some passages, I'm like, what the fuck does this even mean?
Absolutely. Like, I don't know what this genealogy is doing for me. Yeah. It's funny, every time a genealogy comes up in like the reading in like a sermon, they'll be like, don't ignore this.
Why is Christianity something that you chose, and how does it help you in your life?
I mean, it's when you reflect on it, especially like just like alone and you're thinking about it, I think what God does for you in juxtaposition with the lack of appreciation and like, again, the evil in me, it's just unbelievable that is happening.
Right.
Like you're being saved and you don't deserve it.
Right.
And that's the biggest thing. It's funny.
Right.
I had a moment. So for the last couple months, I wasn't like thinking super clearly. And so I just drove up to Canada on a whim one day. And like all these
like
bad...
Vancouver?
Alberta.
Holy
and like
shit,
all these
bro.
bad things were happening. Like I was supposed to have an apartment, I lost it. And then on the drive up, I like drove into a freeway wall.
Oh my God.
And none of it bothered me. But then the night I got there, I was just like sitting there in the bathtub, and it had been dry for like an hour at this point. I was just like sitting there thinking, and I thought about like the hymns I once sung at my funeral. And I started crying, and because I was just like, what God does for you is amazing. Yeah, I think a lot of it is just that it's God does this for us when we don't deserve it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the biggest. And then I think like, what if I didn't believe?
Right.
What if I was just left to my own devices? And then there's just questions of the world that are completely unanswered.
Right.
It's like, so I die, and then if I'm not believing, hopefully there's nothing, but maybe I go to hell. Mm-hmm. Yeah, just things like that. Like, I guess I can't really conceive a universe without it. And maybe that seems like a cop-out, but it's that's kind of one of the things that bring me back. Because I know last year there was a moment where like so many of my friends who were Christian were just leaving the faith. And it was like really bothering me. And then I started to think like, what if I did too?
Yeah.
And then I was like, that's not a better life.
Why did they leave?
I don't know. I mean, I think different reasons. I think a lot of it is just the pressure of like being in LA. And yeah, like
no kidding,
everyone
dude.
You know is like against it.
No way. That's so sad. That honestly is so sad.
It is. Yeah, and some of my friends who were like so like theologically minded ended up turning from it. And I think it was a cause of they were just focused on the theology and not that relationship between them and God. And especially not between them and other people. And I think like if that's not your focus, if like the love of God and the love of your neighbor aren't like central to what you're doing in like your attempt, to live a Christ-like life,
right?
Then it falls apart.
That's so interesting that you said that, because literally, again, when I started stand up and especially the podcast again, I did this through love, through the love of the craft, through the love of what I can do, my skills that I can bring to be able to learn, and meeting people. That's what I found is just doing it from a loving standpoint as opposed to some shady fucking, I need to make this.
Well, you look at people who are like, I hate mics, I just want to do shows, or like, who I'm just trying to get followers. They don't stick with it.
Yeah, 100% they don't.
It's always funny.
It's hard.
It's funny to me when people like a year or two in are like, it's like, I hate doing open mics. I'm like, well, then quit.
Yeah, dude. You got to love it, dude. You got to love the grind. Even if you have a bad one, I've always done it where the first one is awful, and then I'll just go to another one, and I force myself to go to another one. And that one, I always do better.
If you have a bad set, go do another set immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, I found that to be the best thing for me, because when I would do bad, there was a time where I wouldn't go to an open mic. And that was the worst thing I could have done for myself. And now that I see, it's like, nope, if this is a bad one, just fucking do another one.
This is a story I've told like on a couple other podcasts, but do you know Ryan Jennings?
Yeah, yeah.
So his first ever set at the Improv, he ended the set and it was going well. And then he ended the set trying his first ever rape joke.
Oh, God.
He'd never tried anywhere else.
Oh, God. Why the Improv?
Because that mic, like, you have a chance. And he said it. One woman yelled, "Get off the stage," and he did. And he was so bummed. But I was like he starts leaving the Improv. I'm like, I texted him, I'm like, come to Carney's with me and Stanley, because like the worst thing you can do is go home and like stew over it.
Yeah, dude.
That's what sucked about Alberta is if you bombed,
it was a
2-hour drive home. In pitch black and snowy weather, and you're just like, I suck.
Fuck, dude. Yeah, that's one thing that's really helped me get into just the acceptance of bombing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and growing that thick skin, like the calluses. I forget, someone told me about the calluses of bombing, but...
And at a mic, you just got to accept it and laugh it off.
Yeah, dude, yeah. And I think what helped too, I go to this Fourth Wall NoHo one a lot. And that fucking, oh my God, bro. Dungeon.
Yeah, that one's a tough one.
Yeah. Humbles you real quick.
These weeks before the roast battles, I'm bombing almost every set. And but you just got to be like, but I've done enough now to know that like these jokes that are bombing at these open mics are going to hit hard at the roast battle. Just because when you're running them at an open mic, it's not the context for it. Yeah. But you got to find out which ones people like. Right. At least like a reaction to something. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, because all week I'm just like, oh man, I got to do this again. Yeah. Well, my brother, we're coming to a close right now. I usually cap it an hour. I appreciate you so much for coming and doing this, dude. And honestly, dude, you're fucking, I barely know you, dude, but fucking you're awesome, bro. Seriously. Thanks, and best of luck to you in Toronto. I think you're going to do fine, bro. Can't wait to see where you're at when I come back. Hey, man, hopefully a lot better than I am now. When are you coming back? Oh, you will be. I mean, if I win my roast battle, I still have the belt, so I'll have to come back in like a month. But, I mean, I'll find reasons to come back. True. Yeah. All right, my brother. We're Luke again, bro. I appreciate you. Let's let them know where you can find you. Luke David Walls on Instagram and Luke Walls 222 on TikTok. Perfect. Thank you again, brother. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Bye.